For the longest time, I sought validation from others. Every compliment, every like on social media, every bit of approval felt like a measurement of my worth. Yet, despite the praise I received, I often felt empty. It wasn't enough. Something was missing. One evening, after a particularly exhausting week filled with self-doubt, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. The person looking back at me seemed like a stranger, tired, drained, and burdened with an endless stream of self-criticism. I didn't like who I had become. That moment was a turning point. I whispered to myself, this has to change. The first thing I did was change the way I spoke to myself. My inner voice had always been harsh, picking apart every flaw, magnifying every mistake. I decided to replace that voice with kindness. Each morning, I started saying affirmations out loud. I am enough, I am worthy, I am doing my best, and that is enough. At first, it felt forced, almost ridiculous. But over time, those words started to sink in. Then I learned to set boundaries. I had spent years saying yes to things that left me drained because I was too afraid of disappointing people. But I realized that constantly putting others before myself wasn't kindness. It was self-neglect. So I started saying no when I needed to, and I surrounded myself with people who respected that. Taking care of my body was another lesson in self-love. Before, I saw food as a comfort and exercise as a punishment. But I shifted my perspective. I began nourishing my body with healthier food, moving not to look a certain way, but to feel strong and energized. It was a slow but powerful change. One of the hardest habits I had to adopt was self-forgiveness. I had spent so much time clinging to past mistakes, replaying them in my mind, torturing myself with regret. But I realized that if I could forgive others, why couldn't I forgive myself? So I started embracing my past as a lesson rather than a weight holding me down. Then came the small wins. I had always been waiting for some big accomplishment to finally feel proud of myself, but I started celebrating the little things: waking up early, drinking enough water, finishing a book, choosing to smile. These moments, though small, built up a sense of appreciation for myself. Perhaps the most surprising shift was learning to be alone without feeling lonely. Before, I feared solitude because it made me feel unwanted. But then I started enjoying my own company, reading, journaling, or simply sitting in silence. I learned that being alone didn't mean being lonely, it meant being at peace with myself. Looking back, I realized that these self-love habits didn't transform me overnight. It was a slow journey, but day by day, they built a foundation of self-worth that no external validation could shake. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone who is enough, just as I am. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Start today, even with small steps. You are worthy of love, especially your own.